Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this press conference following the informal meeting of the EU heads of state and government. Now, without further ado, I first invite the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, to take the floor.
Thank you, Preben. Good evening. Tonight, the EU leaders met to assess the outcome of the European elections and to discuss what these results mean for the EU, as well as for nominating the new heads of the European institutions. First and foremost, we are very happy about the turnout, which was the highest in 25 years. This proves that the EU is a strong pan-European democracy, which citizens care about. Whoever will lead the European institutions, they will have a genuine mandate from the people. At the same time, we will have a slightly more complex parliament, requiring at least 3 parties to form a majority. This also makes the European Parliament more representative. It will reflect a much greater diversity of views and national sensitivities. This is a truly democratic outcome, and I am personally very happy about it. For me, and I say this also based on the leaders' discussion, these results are a good omen for the EU and for our future as Europeans. The vast majority voted for a more effective, stronger and united EU, while rejecting those who want a weak Europe. This is a powerful sign. Europe is the winner in these elections. In fact, as people have become more pro-European, some major Eurosceptic parties have abandoned the anti-EU slogans and presented themselves as EU reformers. This is a positive development. I have no doubt that one of the reasons why people on the continent voted for a pro-European majority is also Brexit. As Europeans see what Brexit means in practice, they also draw conclusions. Brexit has been a vaccine against anti-EU propaganda and fake news. Now on the appointments and the lead candidates. Today's discussion confirmed the agreement reached by the leaders in February last year that the European Council will exercise its role when electing the Commission President, meaning, in accordance with the treaties, that there can be no automaticity. At the same time, no one can be excluded. Being a lead candidate is not a disqualification. On the contrary, it may increase their chances. The treaty is clear. The European Council should propose and the European Parliament should elect. Therefore, the future President of the Commission must have the support of both a qualified majority in the European Council and a majority of the members of the European Parliament. We also discussed balances. That is, they need to reflect the diversity of the Union when it comes to geography, the size of countries, gender, as well as political affiliation. This will be our genuine aspiration. But, as I already said in Sibiu, in the real world, a perfect balance may be difficult to obtain. I will now engage in consultations with the European Parliament, as foreseen by the treaty. To kick-start this process, I have already offered to meet the European Parliament's Conference of Presidents as soon as they are ready. In parallel, I will also continue my consultations with members of the European Council, both on the future President of the Commission and on the future President of the European Council and the European Central Bank, as well as the High Representative. I can promise that I will be as open and transparent as possible. I hope that on that basis we can provide clarity on all these posts already in June. But as I also made clear in Sibiu, this depends not only on my goodwill, but also on the goodwill of everyone involved. Before taking questions, I would just like to say that we did not discuss names tonight, just the process. So please don't ask me about names. Thank you.
Thank you, President. I now open the floor for questions. I think we start with the gentleman in the third row, Jorge.
Good night, Jorge Valero with Euractiv. Two questions. The first one, you said that the perfect balance might be difficult, but would you prioritize this time around maybe the gender balance and secure at least 2 women for the top post? And the second question, are you concerned that by including the ECB presidency in the package, you might politicize a post that otherwise would be, the independence would be the most important attribution of this post?
It's not only my aspiration to have a real gender balance among the new leaders of our institutions, and there was a very visible majority around the table determined like me on this, and you are absolutely right. Gender balance means at least 2 women. If it is possible, we will see, but this is at least my plan and also my personal ambition. And as I mentioned, I felt a very strong support, maybe not from everyone, but almost everyone, also in this aspect. When it comes to ECB, it was also clear. My message was here also very, very clear that ECB is not for the party competition. ECB is, as you said, an extremely independent, politically independent institution, and all my interlocutors are aware of this fact. But we have our treaty obligation here. It's our role to decide on this. We need for this formal recommendation from our finance ministers, but for them it's also important to know what is really possible among the leaders, because at the end of the day, after also a hearing in the European Parliament, the leaders will decide on this. It means that I think that they are experienced enough to recognize the difference between our nomination for ECB and the others, the more political nominations. I feel here quite safe and comfortable. All of them are aware about this difference.
Thank you. I'm trying to ensure some gender balance. Yes, please. The lady in the middle.
At least 2, as I said.
Thank you. Catherine Fiore, EU reporter. Sorry to bring up the B word, but Theresa May was at this summit, and I was wondering if you had a chance to discuss with other leaders the situation that is developing in the UK. Was there any discussion of the leadership process in the UK? And you've always been a person who's been quite supportive of the extension of the
even more radical, as you know.
But of all the candidates, there's only one who appears to be opposed to accepting, if possible, no-deal Brexit. That's Rory Stewart, and he put forward this idea of citizen assembly to discuss the details of where the UK wants to go. But that would take an awful lot of time. Would you welcome a further extension to allow the UK to make a sensible exit? Thank you.
I'm absolutely sure that we will find a better opportunity to discuss Brexit maybe after our European Council meeting in June, because frankly speaking, Brexit was not on our agenda, and no one even tried to discuss Brexit today. And and for us, the presence of Theresa May, it's something very natural. She's still British Prime Minister, and the UK is still the member of the European Union. And I have no doubts, also after our discussion today and my short meeting with Theresa May, that the UK will be as constructive when it comes to our European procedures as before, and as decent as before. I have no doubts.
Thank you. Christian? To the right.
Oui, bonsoir, Christian. Good evening. I'm trying to understand. Non, voilà. C'est bon. Vous avez. You met the President of the European Parliament earlier on, and he gave you the declaration which had been adopted by the political groups, saying that the procedure is closed only to the Spitzenkandidaten, the lead candidates. But you said today that nothing is automatic, so you're giving us the idea that the door is still open. So is there a possible problem between the two institutions there? And because there are people talking about external candidates such as Mr. Barnier and others who just want to stick to the lead candidate. So what do you say?
I think that it was clear from the very beginning, also in the European Parliament, that for the European Council, the treaties obligations are more important than political ideas and inventions. And this is why we repeated just 2 hours ago our position, which was declared during our European Council meeting in February last year. There is no automaticity, and I think there is it's not a problem at all for our partners in the European Parliament to accept this fact. At the same time, my intention, and also it was absolutely clear during our discussion today, that all of the leaders want to have the best possible relations with the European Parliament during our negotiations, and we have to respect, as I mentioned in my introduction today, we want to respect the European Parliament, also the opinions, and for sure the Spitzenkandidaten procedure. This is something what is not. It's not a disqualification to be a Spitzenkandidat. I am absolutely sure that I will find, because I declare not only I should declare this, but this is also my belief that we will find the best possible way to negotiate with the Parliament, because it is our common interest to find a political majority, not only among the leaders in the Council, but also in the Parliament. And no one is interested in an interinstitutional conflict, especially between the Council and Parliament. And I think that today's discussion and our conclusions are the best guarantees that we will do everything to avoid any risk of tough conflicts among the institutions.
Thank you. And the last question goes to Jennifer.
Thank you. I try on Brexit again, if I may, because in this room 2 months ago you asked the UK, please don't waste this time, and we're now in the middle of a Tory leadership contest talking about renegotiating the agreement. So do you think there is good use of the time being made in the UK, or are you worried about a no-deal Brexit?
No, I think that my appeal is still valid. I have nothing to add to my words. It's, I have nothing to add because I have no new information. And, we are all here aware what is the state of things in London today. Nothing promising, I should say. But okay, my and our role today is to wait for some new solutions. And I want to be as delicate as possible. It's, and I'm not in the mood to find a new formulation or new appeal to my British colleagues.
Thank you very much. This concludes the press conference.